All right, TSL, let's get it. Welcome to another episode of The Sales Life. I'm your host, Marsh Bice, and I created The Sales Life, not for inspiration nor for motivation. The Sales Life is aspirational because you have someplace you want to be, and that's higher. So whether you're trying to get back up or you're trying to move up, maybe life has slapped you down and so you're trying to get back up off the ground. Or maybe you don't like your situation where you are right now and you're trying to move up in relationships, move up in status, move up emotionally, personally, whatever the case may be. In either case, the only way that you're going to accomplish these things is you got to learn how to sell. See, selling is not just a profession, it's a life skill that requires 5 core skills: communication, curiosity, creativity, continuous learning, and productive confrontation. Yeah, you got to confront some things. So that way, no matter what happens in life, no matter what comes at you in life, you'll never settle and you'll keep selling. So if you want to have more, do more, be more, you're in the right place. Say no more. Let's get on with today's episode. And it's all about perfect practice. So that way you can be adaptable in the days to come. And the idea came to me. I was had a young manager come into my office, and he wanted the vent. He was on a bender, man. He was on a streak, but a bad streak. Things weren't going well for him. And many times when you're on those kind of streaks, you tend to personalize it, right? And so you think that it's all you and that it's forever going to stay permanent. And I told him, I said, dude, it's impossible to stay undefeated, and it's impossible to stay defeated unless you do something to make it so. And so when I was talking to him, I started thinking back to Brian Levenson's book, Shift Your Mind. And in it, Levenson tells of a story when the legendary Kobe Bryant, Hall of Famer, was having a off night. And going into the locker room at halftime, one of his teammates tried to cheer him up. And they say, man, don't worry about it, Kobe. You're going to get it. I believe in you. We believe in you. And Kobe just looked back at him and answered, I worked too hard for the ball not to go in. And the point Levenson was trying to make was that Kobe knew that he was perfect in his preparation and his practice. His footwork and his mechanics and his reps are legendary. I want to play for you a clip from Evan Carmichael's channel about Kobe in his own words, in his practice.
As a kid that, it was possible to score 80 or 90 or 100. I always just had a dream. Like sometimes you lay down in bed and you visualize things and you just kind of, that's at least how I would go to sleep. I'd lay down, I'd imagine playing for the Lakers, and I would imagine what the uniforms look like. I would imagine where we'd be playing and, the smell of the arena and all sort of stuff. And I would see myself, getting hot, and, score 10 straight points. But in a dream, why would you ever interrupt that? You're not going to have a dream and be like, okay, and then he misses his next 6. It's not going to happen. So you just keep dreaming and dreaming and dreaming. And before I go to sleep, I'm at 120 points, And so when you grow up, downloading that into your brain over and over and over. And then, that summer, I made 1,000 shots a day. 1,000, right? That's on top of weight training and my conditioning. I made 1,000 shots, and they weren't just shots. It were shots that you saw in that game. They were specific shots. It was coming out of the corner, going to the pinch post, footwork in the post, coming off the screen. It was very specific. So when you download that into your system and you go out in the court and you're just executing things that you've done thousands of times before, and you have that dream, then that becomes possible.
Yeah, everything's been not choreographed, but it's been practiced so many times that it's second nature.
There's why reinvent it? Like, I don't understand that. You go out and play the game and you're just trying to create something new. No, this is what I do. This is what I do extremely well. You're going to have to stop me from doing that. And if you do stop me from doing that, I have a counter to that. Done.
Another thing you told me.
You got to replay that over and over again. See, Kobe was perfect first so that he could be adaptable later. And for you, it's not always going to go down perfectly when you're in, especially when it matters most. And this is when you've done all the preparation, you've done the practice, and in the moment, this is when the OSs kick in, the shit, because something was unforeseen or something's just not working. And you have to be able to adjust. Because, see, there are times that you could do everything right and it all goes wrong. And there are many times when you don't do anything right, yet somehow it comes out perfect. See, it's not the results. I mean, once you release, once you put it out there, once you're playing, all you can rely on is your ability to adapt. Because in game time situations, and whatever your game time situation is, I'm not just talking about sports, I'm talking about in business, I'm talking about in life. You can't call a timeout and say, well, let me go practice real quick. No, it's too late. So you have to have the ability to adjust. See, the key is, will you practice perfectly so you can play with adaptability? And if you can say that, and if you do that, then you won't get sucked into the vortex of emotions and be highly emotional and make stupid things that you didn't even practice doing, something that's all uncharacteristic. See, this is when those emotions hijack you. And you won't believe that the world is conspiring against you. Practicing perfectly gives you the ability to adjust in the moment. Because, man, there are going to be times when people try to shut you down. And there are going to be times when life tries to throw you off track. And in these moments, even when you're losing, can you stand confidently and say, I worked too hard for this not to work? That's a belief in yourself, an unshakable belief in yourself. Go back and listen to episode 677 about scared money don't make money. That's not an effort mentality where you just jump in recklessly. No, it's a belief in yourself where you push all chips in and you say, if I have 3 chips left, then all 3 of them, I'm going to bet on me. Now, I work too hard for this not to work will only work if it's true. You can say that mantra all day long, but if deep down inside, you know that you're not prepared, you know that you should have practiced and did not, it's not going to work for you. But it will remind you of the task at hand and what you need to do. And one reason why I love doing these episodes is because it reminds me. I had no idea how far I had drifted off from sales. See, I've been selling for over 24 years in the profession. And over the years, I was just a sponge and consumed hundreds of books, thousands of hours. Yet I stopped doing all those things. I stopped consuming them. And I was just drawing on my reserves and the experience. And even though I had the experience, I was no longer practicing. So when it came into situations, real situations with real customers, real moments, I wasn't flexible. I didn't adapt. I didn't adjust. And the lack of flexibility and the increase in rejection made me more rigid. I've been doing this forever, and I still succumb to 101. This is why I realized, like, you can read other books. I love to read outside of my field, but the core of it all, the sales life, is all about sales. And so I have to continue to pour that in. I bet you Kobe read other books. But at the end of the day, at the beginning of the day, in the middle of the day, it was all about basketball. That was his whole life. And so, relating to that young manager and sharing this, I realized got to get back into the sales and pouring in and working on the practice of it, pouring in the mindset and being able to work on the mechanics and the offline. So that way, when I'm in the moment, I'm RFA. I'm ready for anything. The only way you can be RFA, ready for anything, you got to be flexible. You got to be adaptable. You can't sit there and say, oh, wait a minute. This ain't right. This ain't fair. Man, I'm getting all the bad customers. I'm getting all the bad situations. No, adjust. Thankfully, man, I've been doing this so long that it just took just a little bit, just a little tweak. And as I started consuming, even right from the get-go, instantly, my mind began to soften up, adjust. I didn't personalize it. I didn't think it was permanent. I didn't think I was getting picked on. I just adjusted. And I could immediately adjust. Now, for my young manager, I told him, it's going to take you a little bit longer than it did for me because you haven't been doing this as long. You don't have as much experience, but it'll still come to you either way. In either case, this is a reminder that you're never done and you must always be doing. So here's your TSL never settle question for today. Have you practiced so perfectly that you can truly be adaptable? If so, I've worked too hard for this not to work. If you can say that confidently, then make the adjustments. But if you say that and you say, I've worked this hard for this not to work, it's impossible that it won't work. If you say that, but then you start to look for blame, or deep down inside, that's the confrontation I'm talking about, confrontation with yourself. If you say that and you really confront the inner you, then like me, you can sit there and say, I haven't been studying. I haven't been practicing. I haven't been pouring in new information. So how could I be adaptable? Because I'm using back in the days, filters. That's what I love about this, man. It's never too late. I've worked too hard for this not to work. Adjust or go back to the lab and start practicing. So what's the one thing, the next thing that you need to do? Don't get overwhelmed. It didn't happen all at once, but it can happen once all the time. So what's the next important thing that you need to work on? Once you do that and you get that perfect, go on to the next thing. Thank you for liking today's video. Share it with someone else. And remember, the greatest sale that you will ever make is to sell you on you, because you're more than enough. Stay amazing. Stay in the sales life.